Before you are consciously aware of a threat, your autonomic nervous system has already dilated your pupils, accelerated your heart, redirected blood from digestion to muscles, and released adrenaline into your bloodstream. These responses evolved over millions of years and are exquisitely calibrated for survival in a dangerous world. Understanding the peripheral nervous system is understanding how the brain controls the body without your conscious permission. The somatic nervous system is the division of the peripheral nervous system responsible for voluntary control of skeletal muscles and for transmitting sensory information, touch, pain, temperature, and proprioception, from the body to the central nervous system. When you decide to reach for a glass of water, it is somatic motor neurons that carry the command from your spinal cord to your arm muscles. When the glass is cold, somatic sensory neurons carry that information back to your brain. The somatic system operates largely under conscious control. The autonomic nervous system regulates the body's involuntary functions: heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, respiration, glandular secretions, and smooth muscle tone. It operates largely below the level of conscious awareness, continuously maintaining homeostasis and adjusting the body's internal state to meet changing demands. The autonomic nervous system has two main divisions: the sympathetic, which mobilizes the body for action, and the parasympathetic, which promotes rest and restoration. Most organs receive input from both divisions, which often act in opposition. The sympathetic division activates the fight-or-flight response in the face of threat or stress. It increases heart rate and blood pressure, dilates pupils to improve vision, dilates airways to increase oxygen intake, redirects blood flow from the digestive system and skin to skeletal muscles, and triggers the release of epinephrine and norepinephrine from the adrenal glands. Simultaneously, it inhibits digestion, salivation, and other restorative functions that are not immediately needed for survival. The entire cascade can be activated within seconds. The parasympathetic division is the counterpart to the sympathetic. It promotes the rest and digest state that allows the body to recover, repair, and restore resources after stress. It slows heart rate and lowers blood pressure, constricts pupils, stimulates digestion and salivation, and promotes the release of reproductive hormones. The primary parasympathetic nerve, the vagus nerve, mediates most of these effects throughout the body. High vagal tone, strong parasympathetic activity, is associated with better emotional regulation, cardiovascular health, and resilience to stress. The biological stress response operates through two parallel systems. The sympathetic adrenal medullary, or SAM, axis provides the immediate response. Within seconds, the sympathetic nervous system signals the adrenal medulla to release epinephrine and norepinephrine into the bloodstream, producing the familiar adrenaline rush. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or HPA, axis provides the sustained response. Over minutes to hours, it releases cortisol to mobilize energy reserves. Together, these systems calibrate the stress response to both immediate and prolonged threats. The sympathetic stress response is designed for acute, time-limited threats, the kind that resolve in minutes. When it is chronically activated by psychological stressors like work pressure, relationship conflict, or financial worry, the continuous elevation of cortisol and catecholamines causes cumulative damage. Chronically elevated blood pressure damages arterial walls. Persistent immune suppression increases infection risk. Elevated blood sugar promotes insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. The system that evolved to save your life in dangerous moments is slowly destructive when chronically engaged. The enteric nervous system, sometimes called the second brain, is a complex network of over 100 million neurons embedded in the walls of the gastrointestinal tract. It can operate independently of the central nervous system, regulating digestion autonomously, but it communicates bidirectionally with the brain via the vagus nerve. This gut-brain axis explains why emotional states affect digestion. Stress causes nausea, anxiety causes irritable bowel symptoms, and why gut health appears to influence mood and mental health, potentially through serotonin production and microbiome-immune interactions. Spinal reflexes are automatic motor responses mediated entirely within the spinal cord, bypassing the brain to achieve maximum speed. When you touch a hot stove, pain receptors in your finger send a signal via sensory neurons to the spinal cord, where interneurons immediately activate motor neurons that withdraw your hand, all before the signal reaches your brain and you consciously experience pain. The brain receives the information slightly later and may override or modify the response, but the initial protective withdrawal has already occurred. The spinal cord is organized in a segmented, somatotopic fashion, with each segment receiving sensory input from and sending motor output to a specific region of the body called a dermatome. Damage to different levels of the spinal cord produces characteristic patterns of paralysis and sensory loss. Cervical injuries affect the neck and arms. Thoracic injuries affect the trunk. Lumbar injuries affect the legs. This precise organization allows neurologists to localize the level of a spinal injury based on the pattern of symptoms. The peripheral nervous system is the body's communication superhighway, carrying commands from the brain to every muscle and organ while simultaneously feeding sensory information back to the brain. Understanding its two great divisions, voluntary somatic and involuntary autonomic, explains everything from how you deliberately pick up a pen to how your heart automatically races when you are frightened.